Look like the round gray one by the deck, or the top right one, the round circle dial? Which one's the gas meter? As we're looking at it, on the right or on the left? One's electrical, one's gas. Which one's which? The one on the left is gas. Okay, so why is that important as to where the gas meter is? Right. So where's it going to go from there? Straight back to the back alley, because gas lines are in back alleys. If you don't have a back alley, they're in the backyards. So that's where the problem is. And people always say, well, where do you think the line's going to be for the gas line? Find out where that gas meter is and draw a straight line back, because there's a 99% chance it goes straight. Very rarely would they have angled, unless they were trying to avoid something, but it's not efficient to not go straight when it comes to feet of pipe. So usually there'll be a T somewhere in that backyard or back alley that will go straight up to there. And from there, where does that go into? The furnace room, because that's where the gas is being used. So you want to know where the furnace room is before you even go into there? It's right behind that gas line. And the electrical meter is right beside it. So likely, right there, you will see the fact that we've got lines that have been cut through here, trench through here. You might get some deflection in the soil as things continue to compact. So does this house have high efficient furnace or water heater, or how can you tell? Okay, what do those pipes tell you? Right. So from outside, you can tell that this has a newer furnace and water heater. When I say newer, high efficient is 20 years. Right, so it's 20 years or newer, but a 20-year-old furnace is still an old furnace. So you'll still want to make sure, but you can tell them, oh, there's a high efficient furnace here. How can you tell? You see those white pipes sticking out of there? Now what comes out of those white pipes in the wintertime? Moisture.
Moisture.
So some of the ones you'll find are really low to the ground and they point down. What's going to happen at the base of those pipes? They ice up, and water starts to build up and build up and build up, and you have big icicle. So in the middle of winter, these houses, what's happening to them is they one of those is for bringing fresh air in, and one of them is for exhausting the other air. Well, if the pipe comes up high enough, it blocks off the fresh air going in, and the furnace won't cut in. So then we get calls saying, my furnace won't work, and the reality is they most likely got iced up on the outside. So it's something you have to pay attention to on the outside is where those furnace vents are. This is a good placement. It's up nice and high, and that's a really good spot for it to be. In the middle of the two electrical meter and the gas meter are two vents. Does anyone know what they are? One looks like it's a laundry one. Which one would be the laundry? The white one, most likely, with a vent cover. Okay, can you come with me, George? Okay, so this is air coming out from the house. This is air going into the house, because this does not have flap. Okay, this should have a screen on it though. They should have a screen to keep animals, birds, that kind of stuff. Most likely, this is going to be your fresh air intake for your furnace to bring air from inside to your what they call makeup air, and this is going to be your dryer vent coming out from wherever the dryer is in the house. I think the dryer is in the laundry room as well, so they're all going to be in the same area. Remember, when you exhaust air out to a house, it has to replace it with air coming back in. Otherwise, you have negative pressure, and it's going to come from somewhere. You push air out, it brings air in. You'd rather have it come through here and through your furnace and get warmed up than to come through your windows and your door cracks and everything else that is there, because it's going to come from somewhere. It has to equal that pressure out somehow. It will find a way. Okay. This unit is an air conditioner. Okay, this for some people believe it should be washed and covered on a regular basis. To wash them out, you just take a hose and you wash the fins around them. If it's extremely dirty due to fuzz, all that kind of stuff, just tell them, yeah, that's going to need maintenance. It'll most likely work, but it'll work better if you just wash it out with a hose. Now, it's not a pressure washer, right, because you can break the fins, but a garden hose with a thing on the end of it, wash those things out, you'll see the dirt. Nobody does this, but they shouldn't. And they should do it because it will make their air conditioner more efficient all the time. Is there a problem with this deck as far as the gas line is concerned? Anyone see a problem with the deck because of the gas line? Okay. Most likely not. That's most likely the reason they built the deck where they did. The deck is really, really big though. Right? So would the permit be needed for this deck?
Yes.
Absolutely. What are the spindles the proper distance between each other?
No.
How do you know?
They're too wide a child's head to get in.
Oh, I know.
Really?
That's looking pretty close.
Okay, here's how I test. My hand here, you got to use
My
parts
daughter
of your
did get
body
a head
that
part
you
of
know
that.
the measurements of. 4 inches. That's proper height, right? 1 foot. And I pace them. If someone needs to know what size of a room is, I don't need a tape measure. I just pace it off my feet because I know they're 12 inches, right? 6 feet is tip to tip for me. Like if you know your body measurements, I do that all the time with rails. Yeah, it's proper. They go, how do you know? Because I know that from here to here is 4 inches on my hand. So if yours is 3.5 inches, yeah, pretty close. That's 4 inches, right? Those are tricks of the trade that you don't need. It makes you look smart, and you don't have to have like tape measures. The other option is take a tape measure with you and actually measure. They need to have no more than 4 inches gap. Okay. Now it used to be you couldn't run them this way because they could use it as a ladder, but now I've seen some where they've done it and they've approved. I don't know the regulations for the distancing or how that works now, but now you're allowed to do that. So the bigger thing now is these things will have to be on pilings and beams. So I don't know if you can see, I can see it from back here, but there's a concrete piling in behind this piece of wood right here. So there's pilings, like it looks like it was built well. There's pilings to support that deck. From beam to beam, there will be a distance based on no different than the construction of the house. Based on the thickness of the floor joist, the thicker it is, the bigger distance that there can be to there. So usually 8 to 10 feet, which if I was to measure, that's 6 feet. So we're probably close to 10 feet for those. Most likely it's okay. Okay? If you didn't see a second one and you just saw some things at the very end, you'd go, whew, that's a really long span. But if they did I-beams or jagger joists or something newer technology, they might be able to get away with it. What's the black thing up in the top corner underneath the vent there?
Attic vent.
An attic vent. I gave it away, sorry. How important is an attic vent?
Very.
Extremely important. We talked about that at the other house as well. So what are the other vents that you will be looking for on a house?
Roof vent.
Roof vents, okay? There's the ones that spin round and round called whirlybirds, and there's just the static ones that are just holes that are vented, okay? Whirlybirds suck a lot of volume out, and if placed in the wrong spot and you've got the blown in insulation, can actually create a little tornado inside if they get spinning high enough and make little piles inside a roof, which then takes it away from somewhere and puts it somewhere else, which is making it less efficient in some areas. So lots of people like to do the roof vents, just the static ones, and when a roofer comes in, they have a code they have to follow. So many square feet of roof requires so many vents. The darker the shingles, the more vents you need. The more facing south, the more vents you need. It's about creating heat and letting the heat get out. So you have soffit venting here, the white stuff with a bunch of holes, and you have that, plus you have your other vents up on top of this house. So it should have significant ventilation up there, but until you actually get up, you'll actually want to see daylight in an attic, because that sees that there's ways of air getting through the property. So of course you'll never look up there while you're showing houses, but that's a thing that, again, you'll just see, you'll be a whole lot smarter. Oh, look at this. So what did we talk about for eaves troughs? Do we see a problem with this? Okay, so what's the problem? Well, but there's the elbow, there's the thing right there. So again, has it been happening forever? Probably not, but it's happening a little bit right now, and it should not be. So I don't know if you can see it close enough here. Obviously, you can see the parging is starting to spall apart because there's water that gets in there, it freezes, it expands, pulls out the parging. And so on the outside, it'll start deteriorating it. So again, you tell them, well, you're gonna have to get that fixed for sure and make that more permanent. Maybe you might want to run it down the fence like they did over there to make it more permanent, because the reason this keeps falling off is if and when this was ever cut with a lawnmower, they were probably moving it to get the lawnmower in here. So try and, spend a little bit of money, make it more permanent, get it away from your house. If it wrecks a little bit of your fence might cost you a few $100s. If it goes into your basement, we're talking thousands and tens of thousands of dollars of basement damage that it can do. Okay? Fence lines are your property lines, including your back alleys. Most likely those ran right on your property line, so anything inside is yours. Anything of the outside neighbors that is overhanging onto yours, you could ask them politely, can we trim that tree? Which is exactly what happened over here, where they trimmed it up a little bit. So the pad that you guys are standing on right now is dead for a couple of reasons. One, it gets next to no light and no water because the tree sucks it all up. But those little needles that you guys are standing on right now have an acidic value to them, and they kill grass as well. But you can make grass grow underneath a tree. You have to suck up all these. You have to put soil down there. You have to make sure the tree's cut up high enough so it gets air and water and sunlight into it. You might get sap on your jacket, just saying. So if they want to clean this area up, they can do it. It's just going to require a little bit of maintenance. Most people don't cut their trees, and so you've got these big hangers for 10 feet in all directions, and there's just no sun that gets there. Grass needs sun. Grass is really tough to kill. But you can make grass. So if they said, well, geez, this was a mess with trees, well, you can take the tree out if you want. Or if we clean all this up, we bring in some topsoil, you can get grass growing here again. Really? Sure. It's easy. It takes a year or two, and it'll be back up. You won't even know what it is. Okay.
This is a really dumb question, but if you have water going into a basement or had fears of that, and you did all the downspouts and you did all the eaves troughs, and grading and stuff like that, could you ever? You're obviously remediating things, but can you ever reverse the cycle of what damage has been done?
Well, damage is damage. So if it lifted it ever once, it's still lifted. Okay. So no, you can't reverse that without replacing it somehow. Like you'd have to physically go in and dig out that basement, or if it had lifted because remember the basement floor is different than a basement wall, right? Those are independent. They're poured separately. So if a floor gets pushed up because of water getting underneath, you could always replace that floor once you've fixed everything. But don't fix the floor until you've fixed everything. And so, this is fairly flat. If it's me, I'm going to recommend they still bring another 2 to 3 inches, and not of gravel, because water goes through gravel. It's got to be of clay. It's got to be something that's going to hold the water and make it like a slide. So a couple of feet of good soil, good clay against the house, and bring it out 3-4 feet. Then put topsoil over. Then put your grass or your sidewalk or whatever you're going to put up there. So now that you've got what's called a positive grade that you can physically see. So if water comes beating against this house, it runs down and it runs away instead of running down and continuing to go down. Weeping tile is a backup, but it's not a primary. Don't rely on it because sometimes they plug up. And weeping tile will be all around the base of this house, and I'll show you inside where it dumps into.